Uh, dang. We haven't done this. So we're getting through all the errors such as streaming Breath of the Wild. Yeah. Yeah. Nah. Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of an issue with putting all the videos together because there were, I had to send him my video and such. So
And
we fixed that by just doing a stream.
we're getting rid
Yeah.
of one issue now by me turning on my microphone. Here we go. Here we
You
go.
didn't have your microphone on.
Listen, it's too early in the day for me, all right? It's too early.
What is the beginning of this?
Once
What is the
again,
beginning of this stream?
what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the stream. It's the Adventure Cast. This is normally a podcast that we do on Wednesdays. But there have been a lot of technical difficulties over the course of the past month, 2 months that we've been doing this. So
Evidence.
what I wanted to do, I wanted to just do an audio podcast. I was down with that because that's much simpler. I don't have to worry about a million things going wrong with video. And then Jonas said, why don't we just stream it? And I was like, Jonas, that's a dumb idea. And then I thought about it. I said, wait, what if we stream it? But I'm joined today by my co-host, Jonas of Between Lines and Lost.
Yay.
And a
Yeah,
little
when are we
bonus.
gonna get somebody else on here?
You don't wanna I thought we had something special. You don't wanna do the podcast anymore?
I don't want to be friends anymore unless you have something to offer me. It's either money or I'm out. Kidding.
We could actually have someone else come on the podcast. It makes it
we need somebody else.
Well, a little bit behind the scenes for people who don't know. We previously recorded the podcast at 10 at night? 10 at night my time. I think that's 7 your time.
Yeah, around then.
So if we're doing this in the middle of the day, that actually makes it a lot more feasible to have someone else on the show
woke
too.
Up. Yeah. I woke up to my mom trying to get me up for church, and I was like, Mom, I have more important things to do. I have to talk about video games. So I guess I just worship video games. I don't know.
Okay. So, let's see. I said Jonas. I said all 3 channels. What's next on the list? Normally I have this written out. Like I said, it's been a long day. It's been a long day already.
Well, usually we talk about what you're up to and what I'm up to, and
okay, we could do that.
Yeah,
we could do
stuff
that
like that.
Would you like to lead with what you're up to, or you want me to go first?
You go first, man. I don't have a thing set up to talk about.
No problem at all. What have I been up to? Well, okay, I'm currently steamrolling through the games I've been playing on Switch. I bought a ridiculous amount of games all at once. Last time I did that was the GameCube when I had 20 games. It had none that I had beaten. I'm playing through Splatoon story mode, or Splatoon 2, the story mode, and I'm realizing how trash I am at Splatoon, despite me dominating online every night for like an hour, 2 hours. I'm realizing just how bad I am at Splatoon. I don't have the let's see, what's the right term for it? I don't have the ingenuity, I guess, the ability to think outside the box as much as Splatoon wants me to.
Oh, okay, I see.
Because for those of you who don't know, Splatoon 2 is I guess it's a shooter game. It's a third-person shooter, and when you're playing against other people, what you want to do is you want to cover up most of the battlefield or more of the battlefield in one color of paint than the other team does. But when you're talking about, when you're playing story mode, there's objectives. You need to get to certain points in the world, and you do that by firing a gun that fires paint instead of bullets, and the paint activates different things. So like there's certain items that you hit and they'll unravel and they'll create paths for you. And then you can hide in the paint, and if you paint a wall, you can hide in the paint and climb up the wall. Like I'm very slowly realizing my brain isn't tuned to to do all the things that's
like
to
all the things. Yeah,
right,
okay.
right. Like it takes me a minute. For there have been multiple scenarios in like 5-minute time periods where like I said, okay, I need to just stop. I need to just stop and figure out what this game wants me to do. This weapon,
like what the fuck am I here for?
Right, because there's different weapons. It's not just like guns. There's also, because you're using paint, there's also a paint roller like you would use on a wall or on a building to put paint on. And that one is my least favorite weapon. But I think that's the most genius one, because if you were to sling it like you would sling a paint roller and to just play around, it shoots paint out of it farther than any other weapon does, or almost any other weapon.
Dude, I used to be a painter, right? Before I broke my leg, and now I don't want to work with a guy because whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'd have paint rollers like you're talking about, and the way that you'd clean them out is by taking a hose and like holding the roller steady, shooting the hose into the paint roller, and it would spin and it would go like super fast and spray paint everywhere.
Right. Yeah. Right. It's all these crazy things just like that. And like I'm every time something comes up, every time it's kind of like a platform based like Mario, except it's not a straight line when you're going from one place to another. You'll get to the end of one section and you'll jump in a teleporter, and that'll take you to another platform, and then that'll take you to another, and you'll keep going until you get to the finish. And each different platform is very clearly set up for you to learn a new mechanic. And every time I get to a new platform, I'm like, I genuinely don't get what they want me to do. So I'll get there with the paint roller, and they'll say you need to splat this spot. If you don't splat this spot, you won't be able to progress. I'm like, how am I supposed to do that? I don't have my gun. You guys took my gun from me. And I think about it, I'm like, oh wait,
work around it.
This is actually much better than the gun. The gun can't reach this far. This can. Like if I do it on the exact spot I need to, it'll reach the spot. So that game. I'm having a lot of fun. I'm having a lot of fun both online and in story mode. I've been posting videos to the channel of me doing online stuff every morning. So if you wake up too early and you want to watch me splat it up, feel free. I dominate most of the time. Like a good 80% of the time I'm winning, but I'm having fun 100% of the time.
You're shooting your goo, my dude.
Yes. This video is not sponsored, by the way. So just so you guys know. That's been most of my time. Jonas, how about yourself? What have you been up to?
Well, I've been spending money left and right. Okay, so I like puzzles. As you can see, I have a bunch of puzzles in the background. I have like fancy puzzles that do fancy, crazy stuff all around my room. And I'm just gonna show a couple of different puzzles that I have. These are all like twisty puzzles that you'd have similar to a Rubik's Cube, but they all have their own little twists to them. The different mechanics as a regular puzzle. Well, recently I just bought a bandsaw, and I didn't have one of these before. I always wanted one since I was like a really little kid, right? I was like, because I had wood shop in 7th grade. I was like, Dad, I want a bandsaw. Dad never got me a bandsaw.
7th grade.
So now
that's what, like 14.
That's younger
like
than
12,
that. That's like
12.
Yeah, that's like 12, 13. I always wanted a bandsaw.
I probably wouldn't buy a bandsaw for a 12-year-old either. To be real about it.
Well, my dad didn't either. But I ended up buying one. And so now I have a bandsaw and I'm going to be making my own modifications. So like this right here I'm holding up is just like a regular 3x3 that I've cut the corners off of pretty badly too, because I did it freehand just to make sure my bandsaw worked. But I'm going to be cutting off different pieces of the puzzle in different ways. And then I have a putty, an epoxy putty, where basically epoxy plastic, where you mix the putty together and it'll harden after a certain amount of time. So I can use that to fill in the places where I've cut off of the 3x3, and then I can sticker it. So I can basically make my own shape modifications of a 3x3 as well as create stickers for it and then sticker it. So what I've been doing is just messing around with my bandsaw, seeing what I can and can't do and how that's going to work on the different puzzles. I've ordered a couple of different 3x3s. They all have a different internal mechanism in the puzzles. So I'm going to see the limits of each type of puzzle and which one I like modifying more. And then from that, I'll be creating my own shape mods. It's going to be a pretty long, tedious process to go through all the different puzzles that I have and see which ones I like more and which ones I don't like. But I think it'll be pretty fun. It'll be something that I'm actually doing physically instead of just sitting at my computer all day clicking on the same rock and, I don't know, RuneScape or whatever I've been playing.
That's not gonna, that obviously the 3x3, that doesn't mess up the corners to cut those off and things like that. There's no puzzle that you have that it would, I guess, make it malfunction if you.
Yes, there are puzzles that, like, if I were to cut up, like the way a 3x3 works, and I have one right here. This is a shape modded 3x3 that's pretty. I don't know. It's not like a super crazy shape or anything, but if I take this apart, I can show off kind of the mechanism of that puzzle. I just have to take some pieces out. So it basically has this center core here that is a wheel, basically, or rotating wheel, and then all the pieces guide between the different centers. So the centers are what hold it all together, right? And so I can cut off any bit of the piece that's not part of the railing.
Yeah.
So if I show off one of the individual pieces, you can see the main piece here, and then this is the railing. And if I cut off any of this lower half, then yes, it'll mess up the mechanism for the puzzle. But I can add or I can subtract from this, and it won't cause any damage. And then so there are puzzles that have pieces that if I cut off parts of it, it will ruin the mechanism in the puzzle. But I can also, even if I don't cut off of I just have to make sure that I'm not cutting off of anything that's vital to the puzzle, and then if I do, then I can add back using the epoxy sculpt. But it takes a little bit more time to do something like that.
Oh, okay, that's dope.
Yeah, so that's what I've been doing. I'm gonna close my window quick because I just heard kids screaming outside.
Those kids. Those kids know when we're doing the podcast.
They do.
They know.
They do.
They know because they'll be out there at 10 at night. Oh no, those are different kids, aren't they?
Well, yeah, but I mean, basically every time I record, it's somebody. It's something. It's always somebody. Some little thing. Little people coming in here.
We got to put the kids. We got to find out if the kids have a YouTube and put them in the description as well, seeing as they're a regular on the show too.
Yes, that's true. That's true. I could invite one in and have him sit down here and like awkwardly interrogate him and ask him questions, come up with a list of questions, be like, okay, why do you annoy us so much?
Why do you, number one, how do you know? How do you know we're doing this? All right.
By what mechanism are you acknowledging that we're
Okay, so we've assembled here today for yet another purpose. For those of you who don't know, we do the show every 2 weeks.
The worship of the Holy One. Oh wait.
I don't know what you're talking about there, but
It's Sunday. Sorry.
You're right. You're right. Okay, so today's topic, we're actually going to discuss. Uh, did I mess things up? Hang on. Everything. There we go. Yep, didn't mess anything up. We're still rolling wonderfully. Today's topic
Okay.
is what makes a good game.
That does make
Jonas,
a good game.
you presented this one, so I figure
Yes.
you might have some idea or description of what exactly you're asking. You want to go a little bit into detail? What makes a good game?
Well, in reality, it was going to be kind of an open discussion because, let's see, you had a similar question that we were going to lead into, and that was, if you're going to create the next game in an already established franchise, like how what it would it be and how would it work? Um, and so I feel like a predecessor is to understand what a good game even is,
Mm-hmm.
right? Before we can say, okay, this is the next game that I'm going to create. What makes a good game, and what what applications could I have in my game that would make it a good game
Absolutely.
for other people? And that's not always the same for everybody.
Right.
But what I'm trying to get at is it's a kind of a hard discussion topic because there's you can have different levels of complexity but only specific ones fit in a category that would all work together to create some sort of good game, like more like guidelines or baselines that you can go off of instead of having an exact mechanic within the game.
Right. And I figured there's also both subjective and objective ideas of what a good game is. Like, for example, we both play very different genres. Like, there's a little overlap in what we play, but we both play very different genres of video games. So,
Yeah.
what I think is a good game as a genre, you might not think is at all, or we both might agree on something. So that would be something subjective. Objective would be something like this game doesn't sell. This game isn't a game. Like, you can't play this.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah. So subjectively would be different mechanics within the game, and objectively would be like uh, what is the main goal, I guess, of the game, or like what are you actually trying to accomplish?
Is
Right. Yeah.
it is what this game wants you to do something that you
Yeah.
can do in it?
Hmm.
Let's see. So,
Uh,
if you want, I can go ahead and throw out one idea of what makes a good game. I can start.
Go
So,
ahead, man.
I think a good game is something that has replayability.
Hmm.
In my eyes, all the best games that I've ever played have had some form of replayability. It's never been, well, I won't say never, but it's not exclusively the same sense of replayability every time. For an example, Pokemon. We all know I enjoy Pokemon. Someone in the chat even said, "Hey, let's talk
Yeah,
about
we already
Pokemon."
know this. So about talking about Pokemon. Yep.
So as an example for replayability when it comes to Pokemon, you play through the same story every time. The story doesn't change. There's very
Yeah.
small differences that could be made every time, and that doesn't change the story that much to begin with. But sense of the replayability of Pokemon is the ability to have different Pokemon on your team every time you play. So, for example, from the very start, you're already given 3 starters to choose from.
Yeah, that's three different ways you're gonna go out playing the rest of the game. Yeah.
That one choice shapes the entire rest of the game. And then the second time you play, if you choose a different Pokemon to start with, between grass, fire, and water, then you're gonna build your team not completely different, but for a good while, your team's gonna be different completely than the first time you played it. And then
Yeah, like if you at the first gym, Brock, like
Mhm.
let's say go back to Gen 1, you're gonna have a struggle with Brock if you start with Charmander, but you're not going to have a struggle if you're gonna start with either Squirtle or Bulbasaur.
Right. And then that shapes every gym after that. And even still,
Hmm.
if I choose, let's say I choose Bulbasaur the first time I play, and then I choose Bulbasaur the second time I play, every Pokemon after that, It's not necessarily going to be the same. The RNG,
Yeah.
the random number generator, is actually drastically different. Even still, me choosing Bulbasaur 2 times, I can get Bulbasaurs of different natures. I can have Bulbasaurs with different starting stats, things like that. There's different moves that each Bulbasaur can have, and I can choose to teach it one move this time and teach it a different move the next time. There's so much replayability in Pokemon.
I think I don't know. Are you close to finishing? Sorry, I'm interrupting
Yeah.
you again.
No, you're good. You're good. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. I think that is a good concept for like a longevity of a game. Like the replayability will keep you playing it. And that's like in League of Legends, they keep introducing new characters so that you can keep playing and it creates a new meta for the game. Excuse me. You'll have different characters that have different abilities and they'll work differently with what is the word I'm looking for? Synergies with different other characters and things like that for combos. And so it's interesting. For that, it's kind of the same thing with Pokemon. You're introducing like to create that replayability is what we're trying to come up with, is how to create that replayability, not just replayability in itself is a good concept for a game, but how, like, if we were to create a game, how would we implement that longevity into the game? And that, as I see, something that correlates with the longevity of a game, or how interested you are playing it over a longer period of time, is having different characters that you can play as, or different interactions, or adding new, or buffing something or nerfing something. And so that is kind of what I'm getting from that idea.
Alongside something like League of Legends, I'll go ahead and say the whole title for people not familiar, is balancing between, I guess, teams, characters, and things like that. One of the big things with games like League, games like Overwatch, games like Hearthstone, is that they all have a really competitive side. You can play the game for fun, you can just have fun with it, but they also have a real huge competitive scene about them. And if you don't balance the characters well, balancing means making sure that this person is not overpowered against everybody. You know, this character's weakness is this character, but they're strong against that character. And then each of those have their own strengths and weaknesses against others. The whole deal with balancing is if a character isn't properly balanced, people aren't going to want to play a different character. And then you have people who I guess they play specific ways, and then that way becomes ineffective. There's in card games, there's a term. I always get this term mixed up. I'm bad with my vocabulary when it comes to certain specific mechanics and like game design mechanics. But basically it boils down to this is the best way to do anything. There's no reason to pick anything else. That's what it boils down to. It's like best method or something like that.
Yeah.
This is the best way. This is the best way to play this game as a whole. Anything else is ineffective or not as effective as using this.
Yeah. So
why would you?
So like a method would always get you higher probability. Using whatever method that you're using, even if you're using it against itself, you still have a higher probability than using any other strategy that can be developed from the cards that you're playing with.
Not just higher probability, perfect probability. This character is a 100% win. Why would you use anybody else? Like higher probability works because there's the best case scenario, worst case scenario, and then strictly better, strictly worse. That's fine. That's 100% fine. But if this card is a 100% win, when you play this card, you win every time. Why would you play any other card? Why would you play any other card? So balancing is actually it's actually one of the things I look into when it comes to playing a game. Like if I can't figure out if I'm playing a game, if I'm just learning a game, and you're teaching the mechanics, while you're teaching the mechanics, I'm trying to figure out what makes this mechanic great and what's its weakness. If I can't find a weakness, both for what I'm playing or what someone else is playing against me, if I can't find a weakness, I'm already turned off. I don't want to play. I want to play. Like if it's there's a weakness but I don't have it, that's fine. If there's no weakness altogether, I don't want to play. I want to play. You can have your game. Keep your game.
So, let's see. That's not like okay. So balance. If it's a competitive game, it has to have balance.
Well,
it has to have a diverging meta. Something that keeps changing. Something that keeps in line with the times. You know, something like keeps updating and getting better. But that's again for like a specific genre of game.
Not necessarily.
Right?
Not necessarily. For balancing, that's anything that includes numbers, stats, probability. What else is there? Numbers, stats. There's probability. What else? What else could require balancing? Artificial intelligence. Playing against a computer. So
I see.
So that's card games.
That's, so difficulty of like NPCs and enemies in the game.
So that's card games. That's RPGs. That's MOBAs like League of Legends. That's shooters. That's online shooters like Overwatch. That's games like Fortnite and what's the other one? Fortnite and PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds. That's a wide range of different games. Oh, that's even platformers. So like one of the main platformers that I think of is Super Mario Brothers 2. Not the Japanese version, but what we got here in America, where you can choose between 4 different characters. You can choose between playing as Mario, Luigi, Peach, or Toad. Each of them has their own strengths and weaknesses, and if you pick the wrong character, there's some places that you can't even get to in levels. Like, for example, Toad. Toad is the guy with the mushroom hat, white hat with the red circles.
He's not a mushroom. He just has a mushroom hat.
He's a mushroom. Toad is the fastest of all the characters, but he's also the shortest, and as a result, he can't jump as high as anyone else. So there's certain parts in the game that Toad can't even reach because he can't jump that high. Luigi isn't the fastest, but he has the highest jump, and because he's so bad at running, when you stop running, he actually has a little bit of traction to him, so he keeps sliding a little bit. Those things can be balanced out in platformers as well. Like that's a balancing is a wide ranging mechanic within games. Within video games as a whole. It's not restricted to just like competitive things. It can also be used across the board.
Okay, so balancing, we definitely want balance between the in our hypothetical game that we're creating now. So do we have
a quick question? Now, let's see, what was it? One of these that we've mentioned, I thought about something. I thought from a business standpoint, this is not a bad game. So are we talking, when we say good game, are we talking about good game on a personal level or good game like this game will sell?
This game will sell and get popular and people will play it and continue to play it for years to come. Always, forever this game. And if it's not this game, then nothing.
Okay. Works for me. Do you have another thing that makes a good game? I want to say mechanic because we shouldn't really limit ourselves to mechanics, but do you have another
any sort of game with problem solving. Problem solving is a big game mechanic. You have to have some sort of conflict. You have to have some sort of learning curve. We definitely have to have a learning curve within our game. So any sort of game, you don't start solving puzzles by starting with this thing right here, this bad boy here. Like, you don't start with this thing and say, okay, here, have fun with this. You're gonna get frustrated and you're gonna leave. You're just gonna say, nope, I don't want to. And any part of that, I'm sick of that. You gotta start with something like this one. this is a puzzle that really you could solve by probably just randomly moving it.
Right. It's there to teach you
Yeah, it's
the
there to teach you
basics.
different parts of the game or puzzle quote
Mm-hmm.
game. Um, and so I think that if we're going to have some sort of would have to have a good implementation of a learning curve to the game and the problem solving that's going to be within the game. There's got to be like a specific um we're always going to have the same type of puzzles. We're not going to like, because it has to remain consistent within the universe. You're not going to have some sort of like random puzzle that wouldn't fit within like everything that you've seen. It's not just going to come out of nowhere and be like, "Hi, you have this puzzle now. It's totally different from anything you've ever seen before." Right? You have to have it all be consistent and kind of linear in the sense that it's going to get harder and harder in the same style of puzzle.
Uh-huh.
But I guess that would be interesting to look at what kind of puzzle that would be. What kind of puzzle is the most interesting for people to try to solve
Mm-hmm.
within a video game?
Okay. So a problem solving game, or a game with problem solving as well as a
Mm-hmm.
strong learning curve. Okay.
Yeah.
Um shoot. I had Okay. So one of the things I've noticed in games more recently are games, specifically games where you don't just get in and get out, games
Mm-hmm.
with a little bit of longevity to them, is that games have many of the major games now have popular characters that they can become familiar with and kind of like and even see themselves
Mm.
in. That's that if you if it, name let's see how many I'm gonna say how many major games are you familiar with? Like the games that people are talking about now. I was gonna say if you can rapid fire some game names, I could tell you which character I like the most or which character I relate to the most.
I don't know very
No,
many games
no,
because I just
no.
yeah.
All right.
I don't follow any games like multiple characters and stuff like
Okay.
so but I understand what you're going at. You say like
like
uh everybody has every different style of game has like their if it's multiple characters, there's always a specific style of character that you prefer playing as
like you
versus another one.
Yeah, like you tell me Super Mario, I'm Toad all day. I'm Toad all day.
Yeah.
Tell me Sonic, Knuckles. Already. Knuckles every time. Give me Knuckles. Don't care how trash he is. Give me Knuckles. I want Knuckles. What other
And that's not because he's a good character. You
Mhm.
just said because he's trash.
I
Like
like
even
him
if he's
more.
trash, I like you like him because you
Mhm.
have a connection with
Yeah.
that character for
Yeah,
some reason.
more often than not, he's not suited for
Mhm.
whatever situation we're gonna be playing. But give me
Mhm.
Knuckles anyways. I don't care. I don't care. We're gonna have some fun with Knuckles. Um, so familiar characters to relate to. That even stretches as far as Overwatch. I like Sombra. I haven't even played with Sombra. When I played Overwatch, Sombra wasn't out, so that was a character I absolutely could not play with. I think she was the first one they released after the game came out, and then I played the demo that came out in the very first week. Sombra's my favorite. I love Sombra. Let's see. Mortal Kombat. Scorpion. Get over here. It's perfect. It's perfect.
Yeah.
All right.
So if we're going to have it, we'd have to build a character. And what builds a good character, I guess? That's something. What builds a strong character in a game?
As speaking as someone who writes in their free time, I would say
Aww, chill.
I'm working on a story. I've been working on this story since what 2000. When was that class? 2010. So it'll come out eventually. It's getting there.
Dang.
It's getting there. Um, Speaking as someone who writes in their free time, in my opinion, good characters are those that have a strong personality that stands out in or stands out with not even with, stands out from all the other characters in the world around them. Characters that have weaknesses and flaws that define them more than the characteristics that they are. So like them being horrible at basketball is more important than, is slightly more important than them having a spirit to where they would never give up. So they'll keep trying to be better at basketball, things like that. And then characters with backstory, but not so much that it's inundated and unimportant. Their backstory is only the information that matters. So them falling and chipping their tooth when they were 3 doesn't matter unless, or isn't important unless it has a role in,
it's a character defining moment or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
They think about that, and then they're self-conscious about it for the rest of their life or something stupid.
Right. Things like that. So like that, that's why I say like Mario characters are really great characters, because they all have nowadays they all have very defining characteristics about them. Sonic characters, every single character in Overwatch has characteristics and defining traits that make them stand out in a world where everyone has characteristics and super defining traits.
I've noticed this in movies a lot more than I do in video games, just because like movies are built around the characters, right? And but for me, it's very evident when somebody's trying to force something on a character or force them to have a specific conflict that otherwise, like, none of the rest of the story could progress because this wasn't a conflict. But based on the other character traits they have, they shouldn't have had that conflict because it contradicts something that they already believe in, or is shown previously that they already thought. And so it's kind of hard to come up with. My dog just scratched my dog's trying to get in my room. I'm gonna have to let my dog in.
Go ahead. Go ahead. It's all good. I think what you're getting at is that just again what I said, characters and their traits need to matter, not just give them things to drive a story and then have it not make sense. I guess that's what you're getting at.
Because I mean, there's been so many movies that I've just given up on the main character because they have so many internal conflicts that are contradicting. Like, oh, I want to save this person. Oh, but I love that person. But then it's like you just said earlier that you hate that person. Why are you saying that you like them and you care about them? And then
and then it's not even like you to be in this situation to begin with. You as a person would have done something to stop this situation long before it even happened.
Exactly. So it's just like we have to build a character or story around the character rather that would make actual sense. And not have it be contradicting and such. I see that a lot in kids shows. In kids shows, it's kind of trying to teach you about different characters and teach you about different people. And so every time you watch a kids show, you'll always see super over exaggerated characters that like you can just pick them up and drop them into different subcategories, or like what cliques at high school or whatever. You'd be like, okay, that's the nerd kid, that's the fat kid, that's the bully kid, that's the popular kid, and and it's just like it's so over exaggerated, and so it just doesn't work very well. But it's trying to like teach a point, and so you kind of have to not get that
too deep.
Too deep, and like putting them so far into something that they just don't seem realistic as a person. Because I think the whole point of doing that is to have the person who's playing it feel like some connection and emotion, like, oh, that's something that I would do, or oh, I understand that this person's sad because this person died in their life. I can how many Disney movies do you see that don't have a parent that's been dead for a while?
Well,
Or
that's
something
one
like that.
that's one of their
Yeah.
was it their crutches. That's one of the crutches that Disney sticks to.
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
easy to write. There's like archetypes for writing uh different kinds of stories. Like if you want to be a sad story, the hero, the protagonist needs to be missing one parent, uh have a pet, have
Need to
a
be
pet,
missing one.
or the pet is the comic relief, things like that. Like it's
Yeah.
an easy, like it's a checklist of things that go down.
Oh, it's a Disney movie. Gotta
Yeah,
have a parent die.
yeah. At least one parent has to be missing. One parent doesn't show up
Yeah.
at all.
Hmm.
I have one more. I have one more thing that I look for in a good game, and that's different ways to play the game. Different ways to play the game. Um, that goes as wide as creating branching storylines, not just for replayability, but you make choices and those choices actually matter. You're getting I won't say a completely different game, but it's not the same scenario as before. The example for that one that I have that always comes to mind is the Infamous series. I think I talked with you about that before. Infamous.
Maybe,
Uh,
maybe I don't know.
Basically, it's about this guy who receives a package. I'm sorry, he's delivering a package in the mail,
Okay.
and the package is. I want to say, I think it's a bomb. Not entirely sure, but it goes off while he's carrying it, and it doesn't kill him.
Mhm.
What it does is it sets off some powers, some superpowers that he has native or dormant in his body, and
Mhm.
he basically gets electricity powers. But what's cool about the game is he goes to find what happened, who sent this, and all these things that happened. And over the course of the game, he has decisions to make, and those decisions shape his powers. He can either be a good guy, he can be the hero and do this just for glory, for I'm sorry, not for glory, do it for making things right, for justice and things like that. Or he can become infamous, or the bad guy, and use these powers to get back at the world because he's been dealt bad cards throughout his life.
Mm.
uh and you follow the same story, you reach the same ending in both cases, but uh it makes decision making points in the game change like the details in the story. So like for example,
Okay.
there's a point where his girlfriend and I think like 10 other people are being held prisoner in two different buildings by the same guy. The girlfriend, I think she's tied up hanging from like a lamppost or something, and then the 10 people are all tied up hanging from a lamppost, and you have to make the decision. Only you're the only person who can help them, and you can only get to one of them in time. You have to make the decision. Do
Okay.
you go help your girlfriend, or do you go help the 10 people? Helping your girlfriend is obviously, oh, actually, I probably even should say obviously. It's not that obvious. Helping your girlfriend is the bad choice because you're being
Is
selfish.
is the moral choice
Yeah,
is for your
yeah.
girlfriend. The
Morally,
logical
it's the
choice is
wrong
to help.
choice.
Yeah.
Helping the 10 people is morally the good choice because only you can help these people. Are you gonna let these 10 people die so your girlfriend stays alive, or are you gonna help
Hmm.
your girlfriend and kill these 10 people? I'm not gonna say what happens. It's the same thing in both scenarios, but that is a
But
game
it's a big
changing.
decision you have to make.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
game changing decision right there. Like it gives you that all throughout the game, not just like one or two instances. That happens throughout the game.
Okay.
So that's different ways to play the game from like a mechanic standpoint, in the game mechanic standpoint, and then there's other ways like for example Pokemon. I hate to bring up Pokemon again. I try to use different examples, but Pokemon's the first one that comes to mind.
Pokemon's a great example of a good of a lot of things.
Mm-hmm. It
You
is,
know.
because people do Nuzlocke runs. We both have done Nuzlocke stuff on
Mm.
our channel. That's where you force certain rules upon yourself for when you play the game. The game's not keeping track of that, but you can still play that game that way. It's actually very possible to beat Pokemon using these much harder rules where you're not allowed to catch every Pokemon you see, where if something faints, you can't use it anymore. It's a much harder, but you can actually do it that way. And the who is it? Game Freak has seen that people do that, and they haven't done anything to try and stop them from doing that. They haven't introduced anything in game that says that unofficially says, okay, Nuzlocke runs can't be done anymore. I think that's really cool. That's
anything, they should encourage it though, and like do things to make it easier for people to do that,
right?
And officially like acknowledge it, because it's something that people do so passionately, and it's one of the main things that people do within the game.
I 100% agree. That like they should, the same way they haven't openly introduced mechanics that stop it. I think they shouldn't openly announce, hey, this is something that we're doing. It's specifically for the people who do Nuzlocke runs, but they should just slide it in there. Like, I think one way to keep track of that is in Gen 4, not the remake games from Gen 4, but the games that first came out for Gen 4. The touchscreen on the DS has like basically a PDA, and it has like 18 or 20 something different apps, quote unquote apps, that you can go through and help you keep track of stuff. Like, a lot of those you can actually use in your Nuzlocke runs. They actually make it a lot easier to keep track of things, so you don't need like a computer, or you don't need a pen and paper and taking notes and stuff. Like, it's actually within there. It's not everything that's in there, but there's stuff that you can actually use that makes it a little bit easier for it. I think that's dope. That's probably my favorite thing about the Pokemon games, that you can play all of them differently, and the company hasn't done things to stop you from playing differently. Because like we mentioned in the last episode with Final Fantasy 13, there's been a lot of companies that don't want you to play the game your way.
See, I totally agree with that. I played Doki Doki, and
which
that
one?
game,
Literature Club.
Doki, yeah, Literature Club, and it was so just. It was like you didn't make any decisions within that game, because you were like, okay, I'm gonna make this decision intentionally with this person so that I'll have a better connection with them later. But then they just do whatever the heck they were gonna do, or you didn't want them to do anyways. And it's just like, well, none of the decisions that you make in the game matter. It seems like, because what it doesn't want you to play the game like it's an actual game. And it's ridiculously weird. You have to actually exit the game and edit the files within the game to change around things to actually play the game properly. And it's like, what?
Well, that's an extreme case. That's more of a story driven experience that they want you to have. It's when you say game, the first thing that comes to mind for me is I'm playing it. I'm doing things, and I'm not being forced down a narrow road. Like, even if my decisions only slightly change things, they change things. So that's a very story. It's a
definition of a game, but it doesn't even include Doki Doki Literature Club.
To an extent, no.
Okay.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't. That's just an interesting point. I wanted to see if like. Okay.
Yeah. For a game, for it to be a game, basically, there's a win state and a fail state. If there's no win state or fail state, good chance I don't consider it a game. There's no way to fail Doki Doki Panic. It's because there's also no way to win Doki Doki Panic. You go through it from beginning to end, and you make decisions, but your decisions don't truly change things. Like, even dialogue-wise, there's no difference between me choosing, like when you go to do the poems, there's no difference between me choosing the top left option every time and the bottom right option every time. You know?
Okay, yeah.
Now, it's not a bad experience, but I don't consider it a game.
Okay.
And it's not exclusively visual novels, because in most cases, visual novels have you make decisions, and those decisions matter. You'll still reach the same end state. I'm sorry, you won't still reach the same end state. You can you can finish the game, but you'll get different results.
Mm-hmm.
Things like that. But that's
Okay, so
that's what I look for in games. Different ways to play them, and different
we
ways to
have
play them aside from replayability. Like different
yeah.
I guess challenges. Like I said, my channel is based on me playing games with extra rules to make it harder or different rules to make it a different experience, things like that. So I specifically look for different ways to play the game.
So now we have for longevity we have to have diverse character selection.
Mhm.
Uh different ways to play the game from the beginning, not necessarily replayability, but uh having the option to play the way that you want to rather than the way the game wants you to.
I wouldn't
And
say play the way I want to. I would say
okay,
playing it aside from how the game is like pushing me to play,
okay,
Not necessarily
yeah,
because most of the time the way I want to play the game doesn't work that way. but there are like I could choose to do a normal run.
yeah.
I could choose to do a no items run. I could choose to do a no block run, no dashing run, things like that,
Hmm. So good character, uh like building up good characters and
Well,
the story behind the characters themselves
yep.
would have what else was there? Problem solving,
Problem
different
solving.
a variety, like good scaling for that as
Hmm.
well.
A learning curve and
Good, yeah, good learning curve.
balancing between games.
Yeah, balance.
Uh, replayability in the sense of I can play this game and have a different experience and I didn't change replayability in the sense that I can replay this game with different choices and still
Hmm.
have a good experience or not repeat the same experience. I think that's we say synergy between characters.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
synergy between characters was a big thing. Um, also, like, combining all these things together, what kind of game? If we were going to create a game together, what kind of style of game would we create? Like, what would be our game that would make?
I'm gonna rule out Pokemon. That's too easy. I'm gonna rule out Pokemon. That's easy.
Okay.
That's less of us designing a good game and more of us designing good monsters. Let's see. Let's see.
Oh yeah, I mean, I guess to an extent, Pokemon kind of doesn't have a good character building because, like,
It
sure, your main, like, you don't even have a character. Like, in the first game, like, what do you have for a storyline rather than just, oh, poof, you're a kiddo and you're gonna go be the best in the world, Pokemon Championship, kiddo with a dream, like
well,
other than that, like, and then each Pokemon, it doesn't really have any backstory other than like a what 2 sentence Pokedex entry, like.
what I like about Gen 1 Pokemon is that the story is there. You just have to look for it. It doesn't give it to you. Um
Mm,
if you there's a few things to look at. You have to kind of pay attention to what's going on in the world aside from you being a kid trying to get all 8 gym badges. Um if you read the Pokedex diary entries, I'm sorry, not Pokedex, the Pokemon diary entries in the was it Cinnabar Mansion?
mm-hmm.
Is it the mansion? Yeah, the mansion. Um it tells about how Giovanni tried to create the strongest Pokemon in the world, Mewtwo.
Mm-hmm.
Uh Basically Mewtwo was an experiment he was trying to do, and Mewtwo blew up the lab, and that's why the Cinnabar Mansion looks like it does when you get there. It's hard to tell, but things are supposed to be destroyed, blown up, set ablaze, burnt, all things like that. That's why there's nothing
Yeah.
there but burglars because they broke in and they're raiding all the damages and stuff. Now
I see.
now what's happening during the game when you fight Giovanni those 3 times is he's trying to fix the problems that he created. He's trying to fix it based on what he knows. He knows that there's no Pokemon alive that can beat Mewtwo. So what he does is he tries to go find some fossils. Tries to find some fossils. That's why he has the rockets in Mount Moon, because fossils aren't alive. He tries to catch the ghost Pokemon or tame the ghost Pokemon in Lavender Tower. That's why he has the rockets capture Mr. Fuji, because he knows how to do it. He has the I'm sorry, not Mr. Fuji. That's why they're in the Silphco building, because they know that Silphco made the Silph Scope, which can see ghost Pokemon. They can't tame it. They can't tame it because they can't see it. So they're trying to get that. They think Snorlax is dead. That's why they capture Mr. Fuji, who has the Poke Flute, so he can get Snorlax and wake it up. And then there's one more thing. There's one more thing that's happening. What else happened? Oh, the Master Ball. They tried to steal the Master Ball because they figure, okay, we can't do anything about all this stuff. This little boy has stopped us every chance we get. What if we go get the Master Ball, which cannot fail at catching a Pokemon? Maybe we can catch Mewtwo then and solve all of this. Like, what's happening over the course of the game is him trying to fix his problems. So that fits characters that stick to their
kind of an antagonist in a sense. Like you're trying to like your intentions are good, but
you don't know the whole story.
But so you don't know the whole story.
Yeah, so it looks like you're stopping this evil villain, and he is an evil villain. He's an evil villain. He's done wrong, but it does when you look at the whole picture.
It's not like he wants to destroy the world or anything. It's not like his intentions are like super bad. He wanted to create a Pokemon that was powerful. Like, sure, he could actually do something evil with that once he had it, but then he lets it go, and then he's like, oh crap, it escaped. Now I have to capture it down.
I have to fix this problem that I created. Right. So that's characters that stick to their traits and backgrounds, because he knows he's done wrong and he's trying to fix it. Let's see. We have familiar characters. We've all done bad things. We've all done bad things and tried our best to fix them and had things go horribly, horribly wrong. I think that's it for our list. I think synergy between characters and mechanics, all the stuff that's being introduced to you once you put it together, that's what's happening with Giovanni. He knows all these things. The fossils are dead. Master Ball is 100% chance. The Poke Flute wakes up Snorlax. Like, it all links together there. But then I think that's it.
So if we were going to create a game, now we have to actually go back to this because we got off topic.
Yeah.
If we're actually going to create like some sort of game, what would our game be? Like, if we were going to create one completely from scratch, like what would the goal of our game be? Like, number one, what would the style of our game be? And then what would be our characters? What would be our goal? How would we go about implementing puzzles and things within the game?
Let's see. I'm looking at our list of things that we've mentioned, and it looks like we very clearly should probably start with the story, and then build mechanics around that. I want to say.
Yeah. Okay. That totally makes sense. I was trying to come up with the style of game before I came up with a storyline, but I guess the way that you're having it set out, it makes more sense to go about what actually is the story, because what would be a good game without having a good story in the first place, right?
I'm mostly looking at problem solving, synergy between characters and mechanics, characters that stick to their traits and backgrounds.
You know what I actually came up with a movie. I was explaining this to Bray yesterday. And this would be a terrible game. I'm just gonna explain my idea for a movie. Is the prequel to Real Steel. Do you know what Real Steel is?
Real Steel, no.
Real Steel is the game, or the movie of the robot boxers. right? Like
Oh, wait.
yeah,
That is. I think I've seen that. I think I've seen that.
yeah,
Go ahead. Go
where
ahead.
the kid finds this robot, like
Uh huh.
version 2 Adam, calls it Adam, and then starts shadow
Starts.
boxing with it and
Yeah.
stuff, right? Okay, that I think it would be a very, very good movie to have a prequel about the adult in that situation, and how it would be him, and then they like see they develop this technology that creates like very good robots that can walk around and have good balance and stuff, and then somebody steals that information, starts selling it on the black market, and then instead of doing dogfights and things, people start building robots because they have the technology to do that now that they've stolen and bought off the black market. So they start having these robot fights and things, and then when that gets popular in the underground, people start realizing that that's not too bad of an idea. They're not doing anything really wrong. Like,
Mm.
sure, it's illegal, but it's only illegal because we didn't really think about it. It's illegal because they said stolen technology. But we have people that are beating each other up for boxing, and then and not having any of this uh not like using robots. It'd be better if we just used robots instead of using real people, so people didn't actually have to get hurt. So then people start advocating for having the robot boxing, and then the people that are actual boxers are starting to get kicked out of jobs as more robot fights go on.
Mm.
And then the conflict would be the the transition from actually implementing the robot boxes in from being illegal beforehand, and it would be that conflict number one, and then number two would be the conflict of the real boxers, aka the dad, or not, is not the dad, but I think it's the dad. Yeah. Anyway, of the kid that finds the robot. Anyway, him and his struggles of getting kicked out of a job because these new robots are coming in, and then how it put him in a bad situation for money wise,
Mm.
leading into the next story, Real Steel.
What if? Okay. What if? Okay. While you were talking about, my gears were turning in my head. What
Mm-hmm.
if we make? Okay, so the movie would be a prequel. What if there's a
Yeah.
game in between that? What if
Ooh.
that links it?
Oh, I see. Oh, that's
You
good.
you pull you pull a Star Wars. You know how they made a bunch of the a bunch of games that are
Mhm.
actually canon, and they're prequels and interquels to link movies together.
I see.
What if you okay? So someone stole the information to make the boxers work. What if in the game that's an interquel between the prequel and the first movie? What if you play as a character whose job it is to figure out who stole it, uh,
Huh.
why they stole it? I guess if this is information, you wouldn't need to necessarily get it back, but you would need to wipe it from their computers or anything like that.
So, so you're going, okay. So you're kind of creating a stealth game out of this, like going and
Yeah.
infiltrate things. My, excuse me, when I first heard what you were saying, I thought you meant having
The robot.
robot battles, and like, and both of them are kind of good ideas because you could have
Mhm.
different stats and different upgrades to your robot, and then send them into the ring, right?
Right.
And then the different advancements, and then you could have some sort of story um about that as well. Like, say we had two games. One was the you're in the hood or whatever doing your
Mhm.
battle, and then you're hearing information about the thing that's going on with all the stealth and and the news articles and stuff coming in from that, influencing the battles that
Mhm.
you have. And then also the the stealth thing being kind of like a separate game itself, and then having the robot battles just kind of hint to that happening
Mhm.
or something like that. That would be kind of cool.
That works. What I was thinking, as just a person who
Hmm.
needs to go and figure out who stole the information, what they're doing with it. Part of the problem solving could be when you get to a boss battle, you a person is obviously not gonna fight these robots because if they stole if they stole the information, obviously they have these robots and they're gonna use that to defend themselves. It'll be what was it, like a not necessarily a dog fight, but it'd just be like an off the record fight, robot against machine, and clearly you're not gonna fight these machines. You're gonna get your ass kicked. So the problem solving would be you figuring out how to take this machine out, how to take this robot out that's clearly meant for fighting without you fighting it, because you don't stand a chance. You don't stand a chance.
So how about this? Within, like, you have a base knowledge of the robots that you're sent in with, and as you go through these doing different things, you'll find different pieces of robot junk laying around, or you'll be taught about different parts of the robot and where they're implemented. And so, like, say you find, like, where they're creating the cells, the power cells of the robot, right? So you know what it looks like, and then when you try to when you see a robot, you see its power cell, and you know, oh, I can take that part out of it, and I know it will stop working. And so you can have a kind of a learning curve implemented into that, of having trying to figure out different parts of the robot, and then as you know more about your enemy, the enemies start getting stronger and stronger, based off of the people are realizing, oh, well, this is an open power cell. If we're going to start creating a robot specifically to fight this one human, or them keep people from raiding here, we're going to have to protect this. And then they'd build armor on it, and then you'd have to find some other way of destroying them, like cutting some sort of valve or something that has, like, what is it stuff, hydro, what, I don't know what it's called. It's like dang it, I don't know, like coolant. I don't know, just I'll just say coolant or something like that, you know what I mean?
I got you. The insides, all the robot-y insides.
Yeah.
I got you. And then that's already familiar characters. If it's a sequel to a prequel, then it doesn't have to be every character necessarily, but it could have some characters that lead into the first movie that exists already. This character, the character we'd be playing as, the detective stealthy character, could be either a minor character from the movie that exists, or be a character that's altogether new and not linked at all. But you just build him, you just write him well. Why is he so interested, or why is he so invested in helping them find the information that got stolen, or the people that stole the information? Like, you can write him well.
Like, okay, so say he's doing this, right? But we already established that later on, if there's like within the movie of the prequel, like they start implementing that into, like, legalizing that. They start trying to legalize it. So his whole idea, or his whole reason for doing that, is built off of a faulty premise of, like, oh, I'm doing this because it's illegal, but he doesn't really think about what it's even causing. He doesn't understand the problems. And so the character change throughout would be him doing this, but then like, say he actually goes into a dog fight and, like, raids, like, he goes undercover someplace that doesn't have all the technology, and sees this dog fight happening and realizes, wow, this is very good, might be a good thing they're using robots instead. So it would be his mental transition from thinking, oh, all bad people are bad, or all this is bad, but in reality it would be changing over into being oh, this may not be so bad. Maybe this is actually a good thing.
The only thing on our list that I can't see myself is probably replayability, and I say that because, as I was saying things out, this reminded me of two different games that I've played, or I'm sorry, one that I've played and then one that I've seen played through. The one I've seen played through is called Remember Me. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not, but more or less, you play as a woman who recently lost her memory, and she's trying to figure out what happened. This is kind of a futuristic version of Paris, I believe it is, either Paris, France, or one of those two. And she's trying to figure out why she lost her memory. And she has the ability, through some technology, she has the ability to access people's memories and manipulate them so that effectively they become kind of different people, just slightly different. And she can have them, I guess, they act as blockades on her getting somewhere. She can have them have their memories change so that they're no longer a threat to her getting where she needs to.
Oh, okay.
So like for example, she needs to make her way through, I think it's like a very small clinic like area, and in there is a nurse. And the nurse is involved with their patients, and she needs to get the nurse out so that she can get in. So what she does is she manipulates the nurse's memories so that she remembers that one of her patients died. The patient doesn't actually die, but she does that by pushing vases and playing around with the machines in the woman's memory so that she remembers, oh, this event happened, vase fell and I knocked over the machine as I was picking up the vase, and the patient died. And she becomes distraught once she's out of the memory and in her new one. So she's no longer keeping her from getting where she needs to go. The only thing that game is amazing. The only thing I don't like about that game is that it loses replayability because you remember all the tricks. The same thing is true.
The
same thing is true about the game that I played through, Batman. Which one I play? Arkham City. Arkham City. It's a kind of cool game. I almost said really cool. I ain't like that game. It's a kind of cool game, but it's one where once you've played through it, again, you know all the tricks because you're Batman. You're paragliding around the city with your cape. You're driving your Batmobile or the motorcycle. You're fighting bad guys, but nothing.
I'm doing something right now. I'll be back in a sec.
I could have muted you. It would have been all right.
Sorry, in the middle of a thing. I should have locked my door, but I didn't. After I brought in Puppy, I unlocked.
It's all good. I could have muted you. Let's see. Once you've fought all the bad guys and you've found all the different locations, it's no longer a mystery because the entire game is built around Batman being a detective. It's a mystery.
Yeah.
So once you beat the game, it has very low replayability. There's nothing that's really different unless you want to go back and find all the hidden Riddler tokens or something like that.
How about this? So, the reason why it becomes easier is because I can hit these things in the power cell or whatever. Well, how about instead of having a replayability like of the exact same game like over again, have it be kind of like Dark Souls, where once you beat it once, it gets harder the next time. And so the challenge is to work around things, like say everything's there the first time you play the game, everything's there to beat a harder robot, but you don't see it because it's not a harder robot. You see what I'm saying? You don't have to solve that far. You say, oh, I can do it this way, and then like this will come down, fall on the robot and squash it. Well, in the next one, the robot will react quicker to that or do something. It'll have armor on, so it gets smashed, but it'll get back up, and then it'll kill you or something like that. Or you'll have to escape, and you'll have to come back later, and then you can say, oh well, then if I hit this valve, it creates like a, I don't know, flamethrower or something, and actually burns it instead. But you wouldn't have to do that the first time because that wasn't necessary.
You know, to be okay. So I'm at a crossroads on that one. To be honest, in a normal video game, if that happened to me, I'd be upset. I'd be upset, and I absolutely would not play that again. But like before I said that, the first thing that came to mind is the fact that Metal Gear does that all the time. Metal Gear does that all the time. You think they'll react one way and they'll react another, and it's not really so much them trying to fool you. It's just that the AI is trained to react to how you react.
Mm-hmm.
I think I like that. I think I like that, to be honest. I think I like that. If as long as it remains balanced, I think I like that. Because like if I know after the first time that I gotta attack what is the robot's stomach. If I know that and I come in the second time and I try to attack the robot's stomach and it tries to stop me, I need either him to have a weakness that is equal to me trying to do that, or it's got to be balanced. So like you mentioned, something falling on top of him.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be just as hard or just as easy or hard as getting to the stomach or attacking his stomach to knock down that thing on top of him. Or if it's harder for me to get to knock down that thing on top, his health's got to be balanced or his speed's got to be balanced to make up for that, you know?
Okay. So yeah, well it's a stealth game, right? Mm-hmm. And so along with the robots, so along with them always looking different, I in my head I see them having their own different models, right? They'd always have a model, whatever that may be. And then so they'll always look different based on the type of model that they are. So if a specific model has you have to attack it in the stomach, well, that model would just be replaced with a different model that then you can see that ahead of time and you know, oh crap, that's not the same type of robot. How the heck am I going to kill that? And so then you'd have to look around and you just say like, okay, what do I have available to me now? And then you'd be like, okay, well, I saw this earlier the first time I played through. Let's go over that and check that out. Oh, this causes that to happen. I can use that to kill the robot.
I think that also works because there's a game called Shadow of Mordor. Shadow of Mordor? I don't know what it's called.
Yeah.
It just recently came out, right? You familiar?
Yeah, I've heard of it, yeah.
It has what's called the Nemesis system, where you start a playthrough and you'll fight one boss. I want to say it's random. It's probably not the right term for it, but it's randomized for you to fight one boss. And then the next time you go to fight your boss, it's that same boss, but he's been developed. So like, let's say you're fighting a goblin and his name is Crazy Larry. You're fighting Crazy Larry the Goblin, and Crazy Larry's Crazy Larry's main characteristic is that he talks and it doesn't make sense at all. He uses words in a language that you understand, but they don't make sense together. The next time you go to fight Crazy Larry, he's now Insane Larry. His nonsensical speech has gotten worse, and that plays a part in battle mechanics as well. So like he'll be strong, but because he's crazy, his attacks are a little less organized than they should be. So if he goes to swing his sword, he swings it wildly and he leaves himself open. Next time you fight him as Insane Larry, he swings his sword even wilder, but he's more open, and there's a certain spot that he's actually looking out for now because he knows after the last time he fought you.
Like instead of doing it like he'll do like a wild swing, he'll like continue to like swing it and then like wait and then be like restful and then like go back and like defend against the area that he was open at before. Okay.
Yeah, and obviously that's not exactly how the game works, but that's how the mechanic goes. And
that makes sense.
Let's push this game out there. First we need to get the movie out. Let's get the prequel out, and then let's push this game. Who's over Red Steel? We send them.
You want to see this game?
We can send them. Who's the company over this? I'm gonna email them. And be like, listen, I have an idea for a game, but you guys got to make this movie. I think we did it. I think we did it. I think we came up with
we did a successful game.
We got all of them, right? Replayability, synergy between characters and mechanics, balancing between games. Yeah, I think we got different ways to play. Did we get different ways to play?
We did, because the first time you can play through the game, you can use that alternate method to kill the robot. But it doesn't necessarily, you don't have to use that method. You can use either the gun, or you can use the flame, or you can use the thing falling on it or whatever. But after the second time you play through it, you have to do it the other way. But like, I don't see you playing through the game multiple times after a second playthrough. Like, I mean, maybe unless you want to implement unless you want to start adding different things to the game like that weren't there in the original time you play through it, but that's the whole point of playing through it again.
This is DreamWorks. I'm emailing DreamWorks. Is Steven Spielberg? Listen, Spielberg. Can I call you Steve? I have got an idea for you.
Wow.
Honestly, I would like to see a game like that. That's actually pretty dope. That's actually a dope idea. It didn't have to be that exactly, but I would like to see. Like to see those mechanics implemented.
Yeah, it'd be pretty fun.
All right, I think
we did it.
I think that's gonna do it for the podcast today. I think that's gonna do it. Jonas, tell me, would you prefer to do podcasts as a live stream from now on, or would you?
This works as long as. I mean, it would be better if we had actual viewers that would chat with us and talk with us and bring up points and stuff like that. But I mean, I like doing this. It's a lot simpler to do it this way. Because
I can already tell you, I enjoy not having to spend the next 3 days fixing everything.
I never had to deal with that. I just had to send the file to you, which took some time as well. So
trust me, it's not fun. I wish I could tell you it's an adventure. No. It's not fun. Okay, so then we could do the next one. We could do the next one as a live stream too. Let's go for it.
We gotta get somebody else on here.
Well, we can have someone. We'll have someone else come in, or not come in, but we'll have someone else work with us. We'll get there. We're getting there.
Talk to somebody else. We'll just interrogate them the whole time.
Yeah. Be like, so
why are you here? What have you been doing?
Be like, so who are you?
Yeah.
Who are you?
Answer these questions.
All right. I think that's gonna do it for today's episode. Jonas, do you want to promote your channels with the Z? Your channels?
I don't. I mean, my channels are depressing.
They're not.
I haven't hardly done anything on my channels in a while. I've been like trying to discuss with Julian what we're actually going to be moving toward, because we don't want to be doing games the whole time. We don't want to be doing games really anymore. We're gonna have loss. It's gonna continue with the games. We're gonna try to start doing more skits and more real life things in the main channel. Vlog channel is kind of going to change around a little bit, so I don't really want to promote them because I'm not really knowing where they're going to be at in the next couple of months. So once we figure out and kind of stabilize, screw down what we're doing, then we'll talk about that more.
All right, I got you. I 100% understand. I understand. As far as alt play, let's see, what's the day? The 22nd. The alt play's 4th birthday. That's how birthdays work, right? 15, 16, 17. Alt play's 4th birthday is on Tuesday, and I figured out what I want to do to kick things off. I haven't played a Pokemon game on the channel in the past.
Bake a cake.
I'm not baking a cake. I'm not
Aww.
baking a cake.
I really wanted to see that
Yeah,
video.
it would be fun. I actually don't have the means to bake a cake at the current time, as much as I would love to. Um,
Okay.
All plays fourth birthday is Tuesday. What I wanted to do, since I haven't played a Pokemon game on the channel, not counting Pokken, that I mean like a legitimate Pokemon game. I'm playing shoot. I gotta open Discord to find that one out. I'm playing a Pokemon game. I forget which one. I'm playing that on the channel. I'm specifically gonna do a solo run. A solo run is a different way to play the game. See what I did there? It's basically I'm only getting one Pokemon and I'm beating the entire game with that one Pokemon. I haven't figured out which one I want yet. We'll know on Tuesday. I plan on streaming that around 3. Is it 3 o'clock? I think I wanted to start around 3 p.m. Eastern time zone. All my times or Eastern time zone. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, to youtube.com. Ooh, is it here? Yeah, it's here for the birthday. youtube.com/thealtplay. And make sure you turn on notifications. That way you get notified whenever we go live. However long it takes me to beat it, that's how long I'm gonna sit here and beat it. I don't want it to be a thing where I come back later. So that's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm also moving all the streams except for the podcast over to twitch.tv/thealtplay. All my game streams are going to be over there from here on out. Anything else? Anything else that's happening that I know about? Oh, I'm playing Mario Kart later today. So if you would like to check that out, make sure you subscribe. Once again, notifications on. I'll post a video whenever I go live. That'll take you right over to where I'm streaming it. I think that's it. I think that's all I got for today. Let me look around.
All right.
Let me look around, make sure. Yeah, I got everything.
Look outside, like look around, like
yeah.
Huh.
I'm good.
Where am I?
I'm good at forgetting stuff. I want to just make sure I got everything. Yeah, I'm good. We're good. All right. Appreciate you again for yet another episode of the Adventure Cast. Don't dab. Thank you for checking out. Oh, I just looked in this light and now I can't see. Thank you for watching the Adventure Cast, guys. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Our podcast comes out every 2 weeks. So what's 2 weeks from now? 2 weeks from now is the
Sunday.
It's the 6th.
It's a Sunday.
Well, yeah, it's a Sunday. May 6th. We'll be back May 6th with the next episode of the Adventure Cast. Thank you guys for checking this out, and we will catch you later. You have a great... What was our catchphrase? Do you remember our catchphrase?
Go have an adventure.
Have an adventure.
Have an adventure.
Let's see you guys later.
Bye.